If it starts running out of control again, this government will not hesitate in putting on the brakes and reimposing restrictions. As we take this next step, our biggest step yet on the road to recovery, I urge the British people to do so safely.
My name is Gabs, and I'm a beer guy based in London, and I go to pubs a lot. Pubs are facing their worst ever crisis since March 2020, when lockdown forced closure. In this show, we will offer a unique insight on London pubs, trying to understand how much this culture is at risk. We will ask the masterminds behind the capital's beer industry how they are turning the tide for the future of this British heritage. The pub is a serious thing. In this episode, we will be talking with the responsible people of some of the famous pubs in the Shoreditch area and the managing director of Euroboozer, Martin Railton. Do you know what the East End is famous for? Yeah, you know, cosmopolitan taverns serving eclectic drinks along with fancy and tasty bites with a DJ in the corner. Next to Liverpool Street Station, bordering the Square Mile, with a view to the iconic Spitalfields Market, you will find The Gun, a modern multi-purpose boozer that is tailor-made for informal after-work drinks in the city. The place is run by East London Pub Co, the team behind the 10 Bells and the Lock Tavern. Here I met Taylor, a young and passionate manager with a perfect eye for detail. The ideal attitude for a pub is trying to be all things for all people at all times of the day. I love the use of nature inside and the massive dining area filled with soft fringe furnishings. While we were discussing with Taylor about the difficulties of the forced closure and the challenge of reopening, we've also noticed something above us. I thought it was a premonition. On top of the bar, there is a neon light saying, "Keep it real," perfect for the weird times we are living in.
Do you remember the sensation when you heard that the government was basically asking people to avoid pubs before the full lockdown?
Yes, so we were quite lucky in the way that we had quite a few bookings in, like corporate bookings, though they are still kind of slowing down as well because companies are saying please social distance and don't go to parties as such.
Yeah.
But we did definitely see a big drop, and then we actually closed St. Patrick's Day because I think we had about 6 people come in the entire day. We normally were quite a busy venue.
Wow.
So that was a bit heartbreaking, is the right word for it. But we're ready to go, so yeah.
What was the feeling of the staff? Like there was desperation, confusion, overall?
I think it was kind of resignation that you knew it was going to happen. We hoped it wasn't going to. We also didn't think that it was going to be as long as it has been. So we had always said that hopefully it'll be 2 or 3 weeks, then we can get back to it. So it was just kind of like the unknown, which no one really liked. No one likes what's not going to come. So we were kind of ready to start up, and we've always said that as soon as we could open, we would open.
Yeah.
So and we could bring back as much staff as we could. So that's kind of kept us going, and we've been kept in contact with everyone and just making sure that we're all okay.
WhatsApp groups and wherever you need.
Zoom calls, all the rest of that. Quizzes, we've done that. So we've been keeping ourselves amused, So we're hopeful now that we're past the corner, we're ready to go.
I also understand that you are in a pretty special part of London. It's almost like in between, where the people go out and have party and offices. One of the busiest city station in the whole country probably. So you are exactly here. Like, do you think like you're gonna have more like office people rather than casual drinkers on a Friday night or along the week? How is it gonna look like? The clientele?
Because of our location, that we're half in the city, half out of it, got a lot of offices around, but also a lot of residential. we get different clienteles throughout the week. So during the weekdays, it's mainly corporates and we've got a lot of law firms and accounting firms around. So during the week, it's mainly corporate. Weekends, no one's in the offices. Well, some of the lawyers are, but they come down for drinks sometimes. So we get more residential and more people coming out to party. Because, for example, now that we've got the night tube, a lot of people coming from Essex to Liverpool Street, walk up to Shoreditch, we're on the way. So we're quite used to hitting quite a large range of clientele. So we're not going to shy away from another challenge of adding coronavirus on top.
And people develop different drinking habits, and maybe they're gonna be scared to actually spend time, money, and going out from home basically. Is pub culture gonna win?
It's British, it's pub culture, it's going to win. It's got hundreds of years, thousands of years. For example, our sister pub, 10 Bells, that's been there 400 years. It's gone through wars, it's gone through everything. It's going to stay. It's quintessentially British to go to a pub. And I think that's what everyone's missed, is going to a pub. So I think it's definitely, we're going to get back to it. I think the prices, people might be shocked with the prices, because in London at least, it's always been £5-6 for a beer.
Yeah.
But people have been going to the shops and getting 6 beers for £6. So I think that might be a bit like actually this is what it was. It's about, we'll be fine.
Well, again, adaptation for good, and at the end of the day, you're right. You can't miss that special social elements that can enrich your life and make sure you can meeting your friends and in the right way.
Martin Railton is the owner and the founder of Euroboozer, a specialty beer importer, distributor and brand builder. Started in 2003 when craft beer didn't exist in the UK beer industry. With over 17 years in the beer industry, visiting breweries all over the world, working with some of the best brewers, contributing to many beer books, conducting tastings, running food pairings and beer dinners, and judging beer competitions for 11 years. Martin is still as passionate today about getting better beer into the hands of the drinker as ever. We met Martin at the Somers Town Coffee House, a traditional pub with chunky tables and bright sofas, open all day for breakfast, lunch and dinner. The pub manages to perfectly balance between drinking and dining, providing generous space both for punters who want a hearty meal and those who just want to have a pint.
Having a beer.
Cheers. Is there any sort of real risk at the moment for the industry that we love too much, and not necessarily speaking exclusively of pubs and breweries and bars, overall? What do you think?
Well, I guess for the hospitality industry as a whole, I'd say there's a pretty big risk. I think if you narrow it down to pubs at the moment, you had around 30 pubs a week closing before lockdown.
Is that a high number?
It's been at that number for quite some time now, to be honest, but that number has been, it has decreased over the past sort of 5 or 6 years, but there was a lot that had closed previously, to be honest. But so that kind of attrition rate is quite high. And for the hospitality industry as a whole, been quite agile. Everyone was very quick to think on their feet, think what can we actually do, and initiatives brought out of having your experience at home, doing take home for food and for drink as well, and basically for everybody to recreate going out but staying in at the end of the day, and that's going to have worked, and hopefully that brings in some much needed revenue for certain sites, but for larger sites who probably stand to have the most amount of revenue at the moment, their operating costs are huge, and their staffing costs are massive after the guidelines that have been brought in, and trying to make it safe and welcoming and comfortable for everyone, and trying to instill confidence in the consumer to come out and consume. And I think at the moment the consumer is still a little bit reticent and still a little bit scared, and you know, they've been curious and they've come out maybe once, seen what's going on and thought, that's okay, but without people coming out and consuming close to the levels that they were consuming at before, then you know, there's a massive risk for hospitality.
There are, at least geographically speaking, two types of pubs. There are the ones that are very much indeed in the zone 1 commuting office areas, and there are the ones that are outside. Now, the first day that I actually went to Shoreditch, it was the 4th of July, and I was expecting an explosion. Probably way less than what I saw in Finsbury Park, Walthamstow, London Fields and Hackney. Central London was empty.
Yeah. Everyone's being told to stay at home and work at home where they can. However, at the same time, they reopened hospitality. They'll probably want to support their local businesses as much as possible.
Yeah.
Their local independent businesses. People are aware nowadays, more aware now, that if those local businesses aren't supported, then they'll fall by the wayside, and then generally the community will be much poorer for it, for not having the services and the products that those small businesses, locally independent run businesses offer. But yeah, everyone's doing, what I've noticed is that every establishment is doing something differently. The guidelines are just guidelines, and they're very much open to interpretation from what I can make out. And in some ways that's a good thing. It adds a bit of individuality to the hospitality industry, a bit more individuality, and if it largely comes down from, obviously, as always, it will come down from the management. But you'll see, you know, if staff are a little bit more nervous about the environment that they're working in, then I think that means that the customers will be a bit more nervous as well at the end of the day.
The Howl of the Moon in Hoxton stands proudly on the iconic Hoxton Street amongst local communities and strong signs of Hackney's coolness. A listing of historical public houses dated back to the mid-17th century has the Maidenhead. It was renamed in 1856 as Queen's Head and in 2010 relabeled Howl at the Moon. This Victorian-era pub has a homely feel, with high ceilings adorned with sports memorabilia and various homages to Irish culture. Here we met Seamus, the pub's owner. He is a one-of-a-kind character. He welcomed us warmly, offered us some beers, telling us nice stories about the house experienced during the lockdown, always with a big smile on his face. He told us how hard it has been for the pub to not host live music, pub quizzes, karaoke, live sports and top DJ nights.
38,000 pubs along the UK, for the first time in history, received, firstly, customers were discouraged to visit them and to go and drink with them. And 5 days after, the 20th of March, the Prime Minister said, you're not allowed to go in pubs anymore, and you guys have to close. What was for you there?
It was shocking. For me, I didn't, honestly, Gabs, I didn't think that they were going to shut the pubs. I thought that basically people would be discouraged from going to them. And to be fair, the week before we were told that pubs had to shut, our trade was down 60%. In the week leading up to the official bars are closed, our trade was down 60%, so people were kind of avoiding pubs anyway. I didn't think, because obviously the furlough hadn't really kind of been dreamed up at that stage, so I was like, they can't shut the pubs because what's going to happen to all the staff?
Sure.
then when I heard about a scheme in Denmark where they were paying 3/4 of the wages, and I was like, oh, will the Tories really do this? But then eventually it became clear, and I was shocked. I was saddened, to be honest. I knew it had to be done, like, because I knew that they had to like protect the NHS, they had to build it up, and in many a way it gave us certainty, because before that we had no certainty. We were down on trade. My biggest worry the week before the lockdown was, how could I pay the landlord and the staff? And I was like, shit, I don't want to let any staff go. And that was a big worry for me. So when the lockdown came and it was announced and furlough on top of it, I was like, okay, so all I need to worry about now is getting money for the landlord. Like having the staff sorted on the furlough was amazing. It was actually not the first time in UK history.
Oh, really?
The first time was actually during the bubonic plague. They shut the bars in London during the plague.
So
during the plague, which was in the 1500s. So it was actually they actually shut the bars in London before that.
I didn't know.
Yeah, not a lot of people know that, but they shut the bars, and that's the only time. They never shut it during the war or anything like that.
Well, because this is the thing. It's like I'm here now, and you know, like unlike some other places that we visit in North and East London, there is life in here, and not just about the staff doing, you know, what they have to do to reopen. You actually have customers queuing to get some beer.
Yeah.
This has been great to see, great to hear, and as you mentioned before, all the community that really support you in all the way they could.
Yeah.
This must be, you must be very happy about it.
Honestly, Gabs, it was amazing to see, because obviously we went out on Instagram and we had so many people, first of all, coming down and saying, fair play to you guys, we want to support you. And they were coming in with like milk bottles and all types of containers. That's when we came up with the, I'll show you the 2-pint container, shall I? Shall I get one? Once we got these sorted, people wanted to come here as well, because they were like, nice, I'm getting beer out of a glass again.
100%. And you got the lid, so you have a sort of protection. Almost like mentally you feel like this is safe, no one touch it. It's great, brilliant idea.
Yeah.
I haven't seen many pubs doing it, and I'm surprised.
Oh, you know what? There was a good few pubs after we started doing this, and when we were putting it on our social media and stuff, then other pubs, and then there was a race, because these became in real short supply. These were coming from Turkey, and the boys down the road who were sourcing them, I was like, oh, the next 20 cases, I was the first, come on lads, and I was like having to slip them extra money, like, come on, give them to me. It was like these were hard to source after a while, but yeah, it was good.
How does it work? I can come back in here after I wash it.
So what we do with these, right, is you come in, and it's still the same way here now. The guys come up to the bar, we give them one of these, there's a £5 deposit on it. If they bring it back, we give them the £5 deposit back. Obviously just wash them or what have you, but to be honest, most people keep them.
Yeah.
Which has been great for us as well, because that's been a bit of money. We make a few quid on these, you know, and we're selling the beer there in 2 pinters. It's been a great help. Yeah,
100%.
Yeah.
We're jumping back to hear what Martin has to tell us.
And do you think there is a possibility to adapt to any sort of scenario, future scenario, from a beer industry point of view, like maybe changing of the habits, changing of the trends?
For sure, I think when people do go out now, they'll be thinking carefully and wisely about where they go and how they spend their money. What we found were that when people actually went out and spent their money, they actually wanted to make it count and actually wanted to, maybe spend a little bit more per serve, but make sure that they actually got what they wanted instead of being out all night and making their money last all night. They were quite happy to, have that quality and that experience that they knew that they wanted, rather than maybe try a few different things or spend less money just so they could stay out longer. So I think that those habits will come back again. I think when people are drinking at home, especially, people are going to be drinking beers that they're familiar with, beers that they know that they are going to enjoy and that they're going to like, especially when people don't have as much money. They're going to make sure that they enjoy that, but maybe when they come out, they may be prepared to spend a bit more on a bit more quality than they would have done previously. But I don't think they'll go as nuts, and maybe they won't spend quite as much.
When I'm talking about a risk to lose that kind of pub feeling, this is what I'm talking about. And it seems to being one of the options on the table. What do you think? Do you agree with that?
Well, I think at the moment, they need to do what they have to do. I think what they're having to do is give people a reason to come to their establishment, and if that reason has always been diversity of beer range, then hopefully they've not dumbed that down too much for the beer nerds to look at that and think, well, actually I'm not going to go there because it's not what it was. I mean, there's a real danger of that, especially with the rationalisation of the range of beers that some places will sell. But they have to make sure that the high-moving beers are on the whole time, and maybe they've increased the price of those high-moving beers because they know that that's where they can recover some of the losses.
Yeah.
I don't know. Hopefully, it means that it will just add to the pub character. People will be coming in and saying, oh, okay, I'm going to come and buy that and that and drink that at home, but maybe when they're here they might actually say, you know what, I'm going to have a quick beer before I go, and hopefully that will instill a bit more confidence in other people as well to do a similar thing.
We love pubs with their own Wikipedia page. The 10 Bells is a famous boozer at the corner of Commercial and Fournier Street in Spitalfields, East London. In 1755, it was known as the 8 Bells Ale House. Those names have generally derived from the number of bells in Spitalfields Church. The name is likely to have changed in 1788, when the church installed a new set of chimes with 10 bells. The name hasn't changed since then. For a while, people called it the Jack the Ripper pub, for its supposed association with 2 victims of the Ripper. In 1996, the landlord claimed the 10 Bells had been taken over by Annie Chapman's ghost, the 1888 Ripper's victim. The building was designated as a Grade 2 listed building in 1973. The renovation also included a new mural titled Spitalfields in Modern Times. Artist Ian Harper painted this. The painting features 21st century Spitalfield scenes and characters such as Gilbert and George. Some of the old school touches remain, with blue and white tiles dating back to 1900, with plenty of other historic and authentic features. Spread across 3 floors, the pub has more than meets the eye with its private lounge at the establishment's pinnacle for exclusive East London parties. Head on up from the main bar to enjoy a cozy drink in the cocktail bar. Today, the 10 Bells is a trendy boozer, commonly frequented by London's trendiest community. We visited Heather, the general manager, asking if we could document the first pints served after the lockdown. It was an enjoyable experience, which gave us the impression that pubs could reopen safely, following the government's implementation guidelines.
4th of July, first day of reopening of pubs. This is the date that Boris Johnson's government decide as the day the pub could reopen. You have to do it in a slightly different way. So we try to understand what this way is. So following us, we're going to order a beer at the bar, we're going to fill in a form, we're going to try to understand how actually works to do something like that. Perfect. So you got the route in here, you got your form in here, you go to the bar, and after you gave this, you can order wherever you want. So let's see how it looks like getting to the bar. You can now order a beer at the pub. You can be everywhere in the country and you can safely get your pint that had been served safely. And also, don't forget that the first pint after a while tastes better. Cheers.
Here is Martin with the final conclusion.
Everyone's doing what I've noticed is that every establishment is doing something differently. The guidelines are just guidelines, and they're very much open to interpretation from what I can make out. As consumers, people have to accept that and look past it, and hopefully just enjoy the experience for what it is, basically coming to the pub and enjoying themselves at the end of the day. So yeah, and everyone's putting different safeguarding measures in place as well for their customers, and I think that's a good thing. I mean, we're here today. They've given us a sanitizer bottle as soon as we sit down, which is handing it out like the salt and pepper, and that's quite a good idea and good initiative, and
I agree.
probably makes people feel a lot more comfortable at the end of the day, because consumers going to go in and think, wow, these guys have really thought about it.
Has done enough for where we are at the moment? Could have been done something more than that?
The job retention scheme's probably one of the most generous in the world, I think, and has meant that over the past 4 months people have an income, and when they perhaps needed it the most, and some people have been able to amass a little bit of savings because they're not going out and spending any money, and so that's a good thing. The Eat Out to Help Out campaign starts in August. Yeah, there's people are very critical of it because it doesn't support small pubs, because the small pubs that don't have a food offering have maybe been neglected.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I think it's going to be a massive initiative for pubs and bars that do have a food offering, and it's designed to get people out, get people spending money, and if people are out and spending money, then hopefully they'll come and visit the small pubs as well before or after their dinner. So I think they will benefit, although indirectly, sadly. And yeah, there's more that could be done. They could have reduced the VAT to 10% and included the small like a VAT reduction on beer, for instance, as well. It's very hard for a government to be seen to be doing that, to be reducing VAT on beer and encouraging people to drink, because that's not really ethically correct, of course. Some of the best places could close because their landlords aren't playing ball. Their landlords aren't sort of flexing, aren't sort of accommodating their tenants. Because they're too big or they're too small, because they maybe don't have any outside space over the summer and stuff like that. Personally, from a landlord's point of view, I think they're going to struggle to fill that place afterwards. So it's a bit short-sighted from my point of view. I think landlords need to work with their tenants at the moment if they want rent. Just keep doing your good work, Gabs. And the industry needs people like you. At the end of the day, trying to do things to help promote the industry. The more people and the more people and the more consumers come and see this sort of thing, hopefully they'll have more confidence and go out and support your local hospitality industries as much as you can. I know it's going to be tough for people with less income potentially, but people need, like businesses, small businesses need your support at the moment, especially big businesses as well need your support at the moment as well. There's absolutely no doubt about that, and let's not forget, big businesses employ a lot of people at the end of the day as well.
Very true.
So go out, support your local businesses as much as possible. But thank you to you for doing this, putting it on, and keep up your good work. Keep on getting the messages out there.
I won't stop anytime soon.
Cool, man.
Thank you very much.
Cheers.
Thank you for watching Turning the Tide, a What's in the Glass production. Don't forget to subscribe. If you have any questions, email us at whatsintheglassuk@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. See you down the pub!